Hey there, Heather Ho, there's Jeff Cutter Diamond welcoming you to another Cutter Top 10 Degrassi video. And last time we talked about the top 10 worst female adults slash authority figures, which we all kind of had a feeling that Mama Baker was going to be number one because she was putting pressure on Becky to do stuff in the name of Christian love. And of course, you know how she told Becky to try to lie for her brother Luke's benefit after the sexual assault trial of Zoe, which of course Becky couldn't do because Luke freaking told her, and basically the Bakers froze her out. They couldn't kick her out, but yeah, they basically froze her out. She did admit her mistakes, and if she had had to talk with Luke, this would never have happened. Anyway, we go from that to the male side of things. Who are the top 10 worst male adults slash authority figures and all that? I know you've been thinking authority figures could be is an adult too, but it's kind of a different category and all that. But yeah, adults are sometimes authority figures, sometimes they aren't. So anyway, here we go with the top 10. And a reminder that the top two in each of the three, no, the top three in each of the three polls and the fourth place one from the poll of death got to be the top 10. And then the top two in each of the three polls got into the um, top six. And then the rest were 7 to 10. There is going to be a change. Number six, the lowest member of the 1 to 6 poll will drop 2 spots, but only 2 spots. Because I want to give that person better credence. Okay, here we go. Number 10 is Rick Stat. No one voted for him in the 7 to 10 poll, but still, it was huge. I feel like Rick's dad basically may have been the reason why Rick was who he was and all that. I know Rick's mom also was there too. And Rick's mom, did she get in the top 10? I think she did, but a low number. But anyway, Rick's dad, low key despised for having an easily accessible gun to a minor, plus wasn't there for Rick at times. It feels that Rick's dad may have had bad behavior towards his mom, and that's kind of why Rick was kind of coddled and all that by Rick's mother. But Mr. Murray was a traveling salesman. They referenced it in Time Stand Still Part 1, in which Rick was upset that his dad wasn't going to be there for the taping and all that. And of course, Rick's mom had to work too. And, all that. But yeah, Rick's dad was bad. I mean, I think he probably didn't have any knowledge that Rick could have easily accessed the gun, but still, it should not have been like that. Because when the police are investigating this stuff, it's going to be found out. And he's going to have to pay a price. He probably did pay a price and moved away from Toronto because of the guilt and shame. Yeah, I really hate that. Number 9 is Olander. Olander creeped a lot of people out in season 4, especially that. And of course, his downfall is season 5. So in season 4, Paige has a crush on her yoga teacher. Doesn't realize that Mr. Olander is actually a student teacher at Degrassi who's trying to get his teaching degree and sits in on Snake's media classes and all that. Paige feels bad, but says she's kind of in too deep. So Olander basically took advantage of Paige in a sense. I mean, look at the fact Paige had troubles with guys in season 4. There was Dean who got away with raping her, Rick who came back to the school and gave her fits, Spinner who openly cheated on her with Manny, even though that Paige was working to pay off Spinner's car, and then she's with Olander, a guy who doesn't deserve her. So anyway, Olander was a terrible person and all that. And worst of all, when Paige and Olander are found out by Snake, Snake kind of has something, and then Manny blurts out the secret and all that. Olander sneakily wanted Paige to take all the rap because Paige said she would leave school, she would leave um, Snake's media class, but it's too TL, too little, too late because it'll show up on a transcript, and colleges look at that. I mean, it was actually plain to see that Snake didn't want to implicate Paige. He thought that it was Olander who was the bad guy. I mean, I don't think he said anything bad about Paige. He kind of was mad at Olander. Olander finally breaks down and apologizes and to rats himself out and basically gets fired and then goes off backpacking in the Yukon and then returns, gives Paige drugs, and then basically breaks up with her because practically he thinks that she's blossoming. I understand that, but Olander seemed to be a jerk, and he had a massive downfall. He deserved it. And then Paige decides to go towards ladies and all that. I feel like there should have been some kind of warning about Paige, having kind of a gay or bisexual relationship and all that. We would have been okay with it. Okay, so number 8 is the guy who lost the 1-6 poll, had no votes, so I basically couldn't put it in the top 6, and that's Mr. Colby. He was second in the poll for the Degrassi Junior High people. So yeah, so I couldn't really put him there. So one guy that could have been on that list instead of Mr. Colby is Mr. Perino, but the rules state, and I will have the preliminary polls and all that up to see that Colby was top 2, so he had to be in the 1-6 poll. But yeah, Mr. Colby, he's the guy in Degrassi Junior High in season 2 after Raj had to go into the hospital for appendicitis that he takes over the English classes and basically makes advances towards Lucy and Susie. Fortunately for those two, they do tell on Mr. Colby, and Colby gets caught and all that. And this was huge. And speaking of who, he ended up being number 7. Yes, he took second in the 7 to 10 poll and should be number um, 8. But no, he'll be number 7. And that's Radich. Radich didn't win the 7 to 10 poll, obviously. But the fact is that Radich was kind of a prick near the end of his tenure. Sure, he was lovable. He was the lovable, tough, it was the tough love teacher of Degrassi Junior High who turned into the vice principal at Degrassi High. People think he was the principal, but no, he wasn't. He was technically the VP, the vice principal of Degrassi High. And then once next gen came, he became the principal for the first 3+ seasons. I would actually say 3.5 seasons. But Radich was a pretty good English teacher. He was okay as a vice principal, making peace bonds with Joey, and then actually was the guy that Snake told about Claude's suicide. And then, of course, Radich became the principal. Season 1, he wasn't that bad. Like, he was okay. He didn't interact too much with the students, and he didn't uh, strike down with his authority, except for when Spinner took Jimmy's. No, Jimmy took Spinner's ADHD pill, and then that's the only time we remember Spinner having that condition. Season 2, the whole fight for your right GMO foods thing with Emma, both lost. Both Emma and Radich lost. Emma lost because she was butthurt over a few things that seemed low key, and Radich is bad because of the fact that he was pressing his authority on Emma, and he's the adult in the situation, so both lost. And then by season 3, he does the whole Breakfast Club thing about starting detention, which isn't bad. But what's wrong with giving detention / suspending these people, like Sean for basically saying bad stuff about Radich? Jimmy and Toby could have easily been put to the police for breaking into the school's computer system to change Jimmy's grade. Um, Ellie for cutting class and all that could have easily been Monday to Friday. And Hazel was there because she looked at some inappropriate stuff. A lot of people probably thought that Hazel was just some kind of mole. Well, it could have been Ellie, but it wasn't. However, season 4 was when Raj was at his worst. He let Rick back in the school despite the students' protest and all that, tells Marco and Alex, who were part of student council, about the fact that he couldn't do a thing about it because of no criminal charges. That's understandable. I get it. But the way he produces it is bad. He should have easily told the students over the PA or even an assembly. And, he would have done all he could. He kind of got Emma's dander up in season 4 when he tells Emma to stay out of the Rick situation because this is not one of your stupid crusades. He's obviously butthurt with how Emma called him out a couple seasons prior. He didn't help Rick. Now, Rick wasn't straightforward. If Rick was straightforward with everything, then Raj would have taken him at face value. And also, Raj is a concrete thinker, and Rick didn't really have any evidence and all that. Raj should have told Rick to give him proof and all that. But of course, the pain and feathers, he was going supernova. Snake basically was upset over Raj just sending Rick home and not investigating. Although he probably would have gotten Spinner. But, that shooting saved Spinner's butt for the longest time until he finally confesses to Hatzelackles. Unfortunately, we find out in Voices carrying the B plot that Raj is not healing the school. He wants a camping musical instead of Dracula because of how Degrassi is portrayed on the 6 o'clock news. I understand that. It's fine. But all of a sudden, he's done, and he's pushing things on the students because Alex said she doesn't want to be expelled for talking bad about Raj. So anyway, Raj becomes a victim. The whole musical thing gets mad when Liberty and JT chew him out for stuff, and then he gets kicked out. I think the school board finally decided to get rid of him. I think they gave him another chance to fix his problems, didn't, and he deserved a goodbye. At least they gave him a goodbye and not put him in the black hole. That was great. Okay. Number 6 is the Shep for what he did in season 8. The Shep was only around for 1 season. We found out that the Shep actually was the principal of Lakehurst before it burned because of maybe electrical fire or Degrassi's revenge. But the fact of the matter is that the Shep ruined everything in season 8. He didn't not normal people like Connor. Well, Connor deserved to be suspended for biting Allie, but not expelled. Claire calls him out on it, and we all thought Claire was going to be the next Emma, like Emma 2.0, but they basically dropped that idea. They didn't want a new Emma for obvious reasons. But the fact is that the Shep had a real broad mentality. He basically told Sav to be student council vice president to shut him up after the elections didn't even happen. Yeah, he had to go to sensitivity training. He kind of fixed it, but he wasn't perfect. And by the second episode of season 9, he was gone. He does greet Mia and say, "Congratulations on your modeling career," but then he's basically gone. And Hatzelakos comes back. But it's because Hatzelakos came back to Toronto from Regina because of Peter's 48-hour meth addiction. Say what you want, but Peter at least told somebody and needed help. He asked for help and he got it. But yeah, he was out the door. And Hatzelakos took a leave of absence, but also because of maybe the school bus crossing the border and all that, that he gave the school bus to Jay and all that. That might have been the final straw. Okay, there's a tie for 5th, and I'm gonna break. Here we go. Losing out on the tie break at number 5 is Yates for grooming Tristan and Winston and setting up fake classes for access to more people. I actually didn't know about that latter part until Degrassi Reddit told me something. All right, so Mr. Yates was the English teacher in season 13, and he had it liking to Tristan and possibly Winston, and then, would have these fake classes to try to find somebody. Maya could see something's wrong and decided to try to save Tristan from himself. And she does the right thing by looking out for Tristan and all that. Of course, it does have to do with the previous season, Cam's death and then her overreacting. But she had issues that were never resolved completely. I mean, it seemed like she was making progress and then poof, she doesn't. But anyway, yeah, Yates was grooming Tristan and Winston was close to being one. Unfortunately, Tristan took it angrily at Maya and basically says that you don't need to do this. Why won't you let me be happy? That's because you have Miles. Thinks that Maya was doing it to try to, with the whole Miles situation. But no, Maya was trying to protect Tristan. The worst part about Tristan is that he basically yelled at Maya and forced her to apologize to him. And then basically everyone cheered when Tristan went in that coma. That's how bad he is. Anyway, number 4, who won that number 4 tiebreak is Albert Manning. I'm actually shocked Albert didn't get to the top 3 and all that. But anyway, yeah, Albert Manning is number 4. So yeah, in season 2, he was introduced as this nice neurosurgeon, but he basically had a mean streak to him and would beat up Craig for almost no reason. I have a theory about that. But anyway, yeah, Albert Manning got mad. He breaks Craig's camera when Craig was going to photography. I pronounced it perfectly this time. Anyway, yeah, gave Craig $3,000 and he went to go to British Columbia with Angie. Joey doesn't understand why Craig would want to be going to BC with Angie. But then the pieces fall together thanks to Emma and Sean. And then, we find out that Craig is that unsafe situation that Albert beats up Craig, probably because of the fact that, Julia left Albert and his violent tendencies to be with Joey. Albert probably feels so bad that he needs an emotional punching bag. And guess who's the punching bag? Craig. Craig is living with Joey for a while, and then at the end of season 2, Albert comes back in Craig's life trying to say he changed, but of course, the skunk doesn't change its stripe. So Albert then dies off screen in a car crash. Either he crashed his car on purpose or he was so mad he lost control of his car. He was so mad that he didn't realize where he was and then the car crashed into him. We don't know. Do we really need to know? Maybe. But yeah, Craig acts out because he's happy that his tormentor is gone, but he misses him because it was his dad. But Albert Manning really had a psychological thing towards Craig, especially in season 4 when Craig becomes bipolar because the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Yeah, so I ended up having a tie for second, which I didn't really want that tie with those two guys. I would have put Albert Manning at number 2. Um, hmm. Breaking the tie won't be so easy. But almost always it's my fault. I break the tie. And because I'm gonna break the tie, I know it's gonna be controversial what number 3 is instead of number 2, but number 1 was by far number 1. Anyway, number 3 is the guy who catfished Emma, aka Jordan, episode 1 of Next Gen. So Emma feels like she's in love with this boy over the internet named Jordan, who Emma helps with his environmental stuff and wants to meet her at the hotel in in Toronto and all that. And that was, of course, mother and daughter reunion when the backstory was the whole reunion of the Degrassi next gen. I mean, high school people. Toby tries to warn Emma about the dangers, but Emma does not listen to him. And fortunately, though, thanks to Manny pointing out the danger signs, they managed to hack into um, Emma and Spike's shared computer and find out that Emma was meeting Jordan at a specific hotel. They tell Spike and Snake, and they bust it open. Jordan is, of course, a middle aged man who is willing to take advantage of Emma. Fortunately, though, he doesn't get to do the deed because he's found out, and then basically they take away the computer. And they actually said that Jordan was a multiple time felon for that. And Emma's told to tell Spike about everything. Ah, right. Emma, wait, this was one of the biggest internalizations of Emma yet. Number 2, it may be controversial, but remember, you'll see the poll stuff at the end, and that's Hollingsworth. I think he just wanted power over talking to his kids, and he probably put Snake to grovel and all that. I kind of touched on Snake groveling when I talked about Audra in the top 10 female worst female adults slash authority figures, but Hollingsworth kind of tipped the cake. So anyway, um, Hollingsworth was introduced as the father of 3 Degrassi kids, Frankie, Miles, and Hunter, and then he tries to become mayor of Toronto and somehow wins despite what he does to his kids and all that. Like he makes Miles kind of a punching bag and doesn't want Frankie and Hunter to find out. And of course, they all want to be closer to their mom than Hollingsworth at the midst of his election. Worst part is that Hollingsworth wanted Frankie to take all the credit for Degrassi Nudes so that he can prove that he's a good father and all that. Frankie doesn't bite and hates him for wanting to throw her under the bus when everything was Zoe and all that. Zoe got what she deserved. Actually, not really, because they glossed over that thing. But that's a different story. So Hollingsworth, seems to cheat on the family, but he actually decides to backtrack and be closer to the family. Miles wants to destroy his father, but can't completely. And as mayor, he had the power, and he could have easily kiboshed Snake's attempts to punish all 3 of his kids. Miles for the fire and all that. Although Miles was supposed to go to a private school, but I think Hollingsworth kind of was like, I can't have that happen. And of course, he wanted to build stuff on Degrassi. I mean, it's nepotism because of his 3 kids being there. He might have used his power to make Snake not punish Hunter for his um, doxing and everything and bringing the gun to the dance and all that. I mean, yes, Miles was found out by Miles and basically they kept it within themselves. But I would probably think Snake had some kind of ideology. He finds out about it. Remember, Snake knew about the whole gaming club situation. So he might have said something, but Hollingsworth would have probably pushed money to the side and makes not Snake gravel not to punish Hunter. And of course, Frankie with the Degrassi with the racist poster, he probably put his power to make sure Snake grovelled with the situation. I mean, I even talked to Sierra Reads and Writes, when she did the whole Degrassi Ask Me Anything and, did the Reddit, and I gave her that big, like, manifesto, or Magna Carta, if you will. And she's like, yeah, I think that he had the money, the power, and all that, and it would have given Snake trouble. So don't hate on that. And number one, by a wide margin, who took 50% of the 1 to 6 poll, and I think you knew who this was going to be. I knew who it was going to be. It was Jane's dad. I mean, why wouldn't it be Jane's dad? Although Albert Manning definitely would have been a number one for me. But yeah, Jane's dad to me had to be number one because of the fact that, what he did to Jane and all that. So in the midst of season 8, when Hollingsworth, not Hollingsworth, the chef comes back from his sensitivity training and people don't like it, he sets up a alumni football game between the current Degrassi Panthers and some alumni from past and all that. And Lucas gets in, even though that we didn't really see Lucas graduate high school. It was like, Lucas is an alumni? I thought he dropped out. But anyway, yeah, Jane finds out that her dad wants to be back in her life, and Jane doesn't realize why she hates her dad. But then it's revealed that he sexually accosted her and all that. Lucas would be oblivious to everything. I think that he may have paid Lucas off or something. I don't know. But yeah, Lucas believes his dad, mostly because he wants a relationship with his dad, because maybe with the lack of a father figure, Lucas doesn't feel like he wants to be a father figure to Izzy and all that. So anyway, Jane's dad's found out, and finally Lucas believes Jane after Jane points out how close he is to Izzy, and then Lucas realizes that the cycle of abuse will continue, and Izzy is a target. So he basically tells the dad to get away from us. So anyhow, Jane and Lucas and the mother go to therapy and all that. Lucas apologizes for everything, saying he should not have been a jerk. But Jane gives him a pass, saying, you're here now, and we were just kids. So fortunately that happens, and, Jane fixes her problems. It would have been so nice to see if Lucas actually changed because of the whole thing. Because the next episode, poof, he's gone. He doesn't appear in any more episodes. And not even a freaking mention. I feel like he probably did so badly that Jane doesn't want to talk about him. But yeah, Jane's dad definitely deserves to be mean. Although I gotta say Albert Manning because of the psychological abuse towards Craig. I mean, I don't think Jane's dad really had more psychological abuse on Jane as Albert did on Craig. But that's just me. So anyway, thanks for watching this episode. I'm Jeff Diamond. Adieu.